back. Well, job losses and stay-at-home rules have led many to reevaluate whether they really need to buy a new car or not. Companies also are watching the pennies. May saw a major downturn in car sales. June saw an increase, but nothing like what happened before the pandemic. So how has the industry being affected? Who's buying and what are they buying? George Mienie is the CEO of AutoTrader. George, good evening to you. I'm afraid to start with this question, but are people still actually buying cars?
Hi, Stephen, and thank you for having me. Yes, people are indeed buying cars, and what we're seeing is more of a swing to the used car market and new car being under pressure.
So new cars are under pressure. That means it might be boom times for some people in the used market, or is just demand so low they're not seeing that?
Yes, so we're seeing about a 13% decline in used car sales year on year for the month of June in used car, coming out of lockdown level 5 and then 4 and then into 3. And we've recovered from May into June at 45% increase. So that's encouraging for used car, while new car are under pressure and declined by almost 31% last month. So over the month last year. But what's encouraging, Stephen, is that in May, searches for cars under 50,000 Rand increased by almost 300% from pre-COVID levels. In June, we've seen this start to normalize with searches for cars up to 200,000 Rand starting to recover. So by and large, what we're finding is normality returning in the used car market and people choosing used cars over new.
And the sort of other trends, I mean, are people staying with brands? Are they changing brands? If they're going down, are they going from one German car to another, or from one German model to another, or they're staying loyal?
Well, Stephen, brand loyalty and sentiment is an extremely fragile thing, and the function of a function of many factors, and not just about the car itself. And it also extends to showroom experience, how people are handled as a customer. And we don't see a lot of evidence of car brand loyalty in our data when it comes to consumers buying down. The only thing we've seen recently is that the Volvo XC60 and XC40 comparison, search trends for the XC40 increased disproportionately versus the XC60. But in saying that, Volvo also had some good deals and fixed interest rates on the table since June.
Okay, so when you try and predict what demand's going to look like for the next little while, very difficult. I know no one knows what's going to happen with the pandemic. I sort of get the sense people are hanging on to their money. If they're going to change cars, they're actually going to be very careful about how they do that.
That's absolutely correct, and hence the swing to used, because people are being a little bit more cautious. You can get a better used car from a feature point of view for the same money as what you could buy a new car. You don't experience the depreciation drop as drastically, and you could drive that for the next 2 to 3 years while the economy potentially recovers.
I mean, there's so much that's changing in the car industry. Even before COVID-19, it seemed that the number of cars that people were buying in other markets was not increasing as it had in the past. I'm going to ask a question about Ehailing services. Is there still a demand for Toyota Corollas?
There's always a demand for Toyota, Stephen, and not only in Ehailing services. Toyota is amongst the top 10 most searched for brands on AutoTrader's website. So I have no doubt that even with Ehailing services being under pressure, Toyota is still going to experience demand, just like VW and BMW experience in South Africa. Those are the top 3 brands that South Africans seem to prefer.
And I mean, looking ahead, I mean, it really depends on where you sit, but it does seem that people are going to be driving to work less. And that means we might see more families with one car. So if they've got 2 cars at the moment, as they go, when they get rid of one, they won't buy another. Does that worry you?
South Africa is a car-faring nation, and yes, while that is a factor, some might say that might reduce car demand. We're not seeing that in our data at the moment. As a matter of fact, we've seen the highest search volumes in June 2020 ever on AutoTrader's website. So we're not seeing it in the data. It's a plausible calculation or assessment, but until it actually happens, Africans. South Africans are still car-faring people. We've got a big country. The UK fits into South Africa 9 times. So people have to drive in South Africa. Our public transport infrastructure isn't like it is in the UK or America. So people have reasons to have a car, and South Africans feel independent with motor vehicles. And also bear another factor in mind, I think, is that a car now is a place of safety. It is a place of social distance outside of your home, because you're in this cocoon.
I mean, there's a lot of conversation around that in China. I know that car sales have been up immediately in the Wuhan area. I've got to ask about aspiration. I mean, people still, during a lockdown, nothing to do, got a little bit of data. Are people looking at Maseratis or Ferraris?
Maseratis or Ferraris? I think both. I'm personally a Ferrari person, so I think both. You do still get a lot of aspirational search, but in terms of the luxury segment and not the supercar segment, we are seeing that also recover. So cars over 500,000 Rand are seeing an increase in search activity on AutoTrader.
George Mienie, thanks very much indeed. We'll discuss Ferraris and your liking for them at some other time. George Mienie is the CEO of AutoTrader.